Hollywood sold you a counterfeit reality, a blockbuster fantasy where the end of the world is a playground for heroes with unlimited ammo and perfect jaw lanes. They want you to believe that when the grid goes down, the person with the biggest gun wins. But here at Victor's Logic, we know the grim truth. The apocalypse isn't a shootout, it's a starvation simulator. It's a silent grinding endurance test where that expensive sports car is just a coffin on wheels. And your stockpile of bullets won't stop dysentery? When the lights go out for good, the most dangerous thing isn't a zombie or a raider, it's your own inability to do the boring, dirty work. The boring, dirty work of staying alive. There are 7 fundamental pillars standing between you and a shallow grave, 7 mundane, unsexy skills transforming you from a victim into a survivor. Let's dismantle the fantasy and build a toolkit for the collapse. Skill number 1 is the art of combustion. When heating systems fail and winter winds howl through broken windows, hypothermia will claim you long before starvation does. You might find yourself shivering in the ruins of a department store, surrounded by luxury goods that can't generate a single joule of heat. Fire is your primary life support system. It sterilizes your water, cooks out the parasites in your food, and keeps your morale from freezing over. If you don't have a lighter, you need friction. The bow drill is your engine. You take a softwood hearth board, willow or cedar works best, and carve a small divot into the wood. Your spindle is a harder stick spun by a bow made from a curved branch and whatever cordage you can scavenge, like a shoelace or a strip of leather. You press down with a handhold and saw back and forth until the friction births a tiny glowing coal. It takes sweat and frustration, but that coal is the seed of life. If you lack the cordage, you resort to the hand drill, sacrificing the skin on your palms to spin the wood directly, or if you were smart enough to scavenge high-carbon steel and a piece of flint or broken glass, you can strike sparks into charred cloth. It's simple physics. Kinetic energy becomes thermal energy, and thermal energy becomes survival. Skill number 2 involves the most deceptive killer on Earth: water. That crystal-clear mountain stream looks refreshing, but it is teeming with microscopic biological weapons, like Giardia and E. coli. Drinking straight from the source is Russian roulette with your intestines. Dehydration is a slow death, but dysentery is a fast, messy one. Boiling is the gold standard. Bring water to a rolling fury for 1 minute, 3 if you're at high altitude, and you kill everything that wants to use your body as a host. If you lack a metal pot, you can heat rocks in a fire until they glow and drop them into a wooden or rock container. To flash, boil the water. If you have time and sunshine, use a clear plastic bottle, leave it in direct sunlight for 6 hours, allowing the UV radiation to scramble the DNA of the pathogens. For a more engineered approach, build a filter with layers of charcoal, sand, and gravel to remove the debris, though you must still boil the output. And in the direst straits, the solar still pulls moisture from the earth. A hole in the ground, a collection cup, and a plastic sheet weighted in the center creates a greenhouse that distills pure water drop by drop. Now let's talk about connection. Skill 3 is knot craft. You can have all the rope in the world, but if you tie a granny knot, your shelter will collapse on your head the first time the wind picks up. Rope is the skeleton of your new life, and knots are the joints. Forget the complex decorative stuff, you need utility. The bowline is the king of loops. It creates a fixed eye that will not slip or jam under load. Perfect for hauling gear or rescuing someone from a ravine. The clove hitch is your quick-release anchor for starting lashings. The taut line hitch is a movable friction knot that lets you tighten your tent lines without untying them when you need to construct furniture or heavy shelter frames. The square lashing binds 2 poles together with strength that rivals steel bolts. And for moving heavy loads, the trucker's hitch acts as a pulley system, made entirely of rope, multiplying your pulling power. At Victor's Logic, we preach that your hands should be able to tie these while your brain is frozen in panic. Skill 4 is becoming your own doctor. There is no 911. There is no ambulance. If you get a deep gash, you are the surgeon. Infection is the new apex predator. A simple scratch from a rusty fence can fester into sepsis, turning your blood into poison. Hygiene is no longer optional, it is tactical. Flush wounds with liters of boiled water to drive out bacteria. Close lacerations with butterfly strips improvised from duct tape. You must memorize the red flags of infection, searing heat, throbbing pain, and terrifying red streaks tracking toward your heart. If you see those, you are losing the war. Broken bones need rigid splints padded with soft fabric, immobilized above and below the fracture. Learn to stop the red flow, direct unyielding pressure. Direct unyielding pressure is your best friend. Tourniquets are effective but dangerous. A calculated risk to save a life at the cost of a limb, and never ever put ice on a burn. Cool water and clean coverings are the only way to treat thermal damage without causing shock. Skill 5 is architecture. You are fighting the atmosphere itself. A wet, windy night at 50 degrees is just as lethal as a dry, freezing one. You need a microclimate. The debris hut is essentially a squirrel's nest for humans. A ridgepole, some ribs, and a massive pile of leaves create a cocoon of dead air space that traps your body heat. The lean-to acts as a giant reflector, catching the heat from your fire and bouncing it back onto you, provided you build it with its back to the wind. In deep winter, the snow cave uses the insulating properties of snow to keep you right around freezing, which is balmy compared to the sub-zero air outside. Remember that cold air is heavy and sinks, so build your sleeping platform higher than your entrance. To trap the warmth, skill 6 is acquisition. The supermarkets are empty museums of a fallen age. You need to look at the landscape and see a menu, but be warned, foraging is a high-stakes game. Mushrooms are treacherous. One feeds you, the look-alike kills you. Focus on the sure things. Dandelions offer edible greens and roots. Cattails are the supermarket of the swamp, offering starch, pollen, and edible shoots. Acorns can be ground into flour once you leach out the bitter tannins. Pine needles are packed with vitamin C to keep scurvy at bay. However, plants are low calories. You need protein, and traps are better than hunting because traps work while you sleep. A simple wire snare on a rabbit run is passive income for your stomach. The figure 4 deadfall uses gravity and a heavy rock to crush prey that takes the bait. Fish traps woven from reeds guide fish into a funnel they can't escape. You must understand the seasons, knowing when roots are toxic and when they are fuel. Finally, skill 7 is orientation. The GPS satellites are silent metal junk orbiting a dead world. If you can't navigate, you are just wandering until you die. The sun is your celestial clock. Use the shadow stick method. Mark the tip of a shadow. Wait 15 minutes and mark it again to create an east-west line. At night, the Big Dipper points the way to Polaris, the North Star, which remains fixed above the true north. Read the environment like a text. Moss preference, snow melt patterns, and spider web placements give you clues, though never rely on just one. Learn to backtrack by breaking twigs or leaving markers, so you can always retrace your steps. Here is the bottom line. The guy down the street with the tactical vest and the wall of guns is going to starve because he thought buying things was the same as learning things. Survival isn't about what you have in your backpack. It's about what you have in your neural pathways. Gear breaks, supplies rot, but skills are weightless and eternal. The apocalypse is a test that you can't cheat on, so do the homework now, because once the sky falls, class is permanently dismissed. This is Victor's Logic signing off.